I think it is welcome news for consumers at a time when there's so much worry and concern and uncertainty about the financial impact of COVID. A 4.8% tariff decrease and a fairly confident outlook that there won't be any change to the tariff as we progress over the next 6 to 9 months through the autumn and the winter does provide a modest saving at this point on electricity bills, but it does offer a level of certainty, I suppose, as we come into the autumn and winter period, that we're unlikely to see any change. So it's a modest decrease in the tariff at this stage, but I think we were keen to make sure that any benefit that we could get was passed on to customers at this time.
Some people are wondering why the cut isn't bigger, given the substantial fall in wholesale electricity prices.
Well, you know, in the past, I think an almost 5% decrease in the electricity tariff would have been hailed as great news. But I do understand that because we've seen such a significant fall in global oil and gas prices, many people would have expected a much more significant impact through the electricity system. Indeed, whenever I announced the regulated gas tariff changes back in February, we had an almost 20% decrease from one of the suppliers. And frankly, the regulator would have been really hopeful of a double-digit decrease in electricity tariffs as we started into the review of Power NI. But all of that, Jamie, as you know only too well, was BC, before COVID. And, the reality is that the collapse of the business sector, with all the devastating impacts that is having, that has impacted on the electricity system as well. We have seen a huge drop-off in demand for electricity. Those businesses just not there, just not using electricity. And that fall then has resulted in the network element of the tariff having to be shared over a smaller number of units. The network part of the tariff is fixed. That's the cost of the wires, the distribution and the transmission network. As you know, those costs are normally spread over all consumers, but with no businesses there to keep up the demand for electricity, with the reduced, in many areas, manufacturing demand as well. That means the network costs are spread over a smaller number of customers, and that impact, that network bit of the tariff, then is offsetting the otherwise really good story that we would have coming from the wholesale part of the tariff, the falling gas prices and the impact that we've seen in the single electricity market of high levels of wind. That benefit, I suppose, has been mitigated by the network impact. So it's an unfortunate situation, because I think otherwise we would have been looking at a much more significant decrease, which would have been always would have been very welcome.